In this unit, you will be learning to identify note names on the bass clef and the treble clef, and also on the piano keyboard. You will also learn to write notes on the musical staff. The staff is a set of 5 lines that allow us to place notes vertically in space, which are related to highness or lowness in pitch. Ledger lines are small lines that are used to extend the range of the staff, either above or below the basic 5 lines of the staff. Clef signs are written at the beginning of each staff in music notation. They indicate regions of pitch. The most common clef signs are treble and bass. The clef sign looks like an elaborate script. For example, the treble clef looks like a script G and is sometimes referred to as the G clef. Notice the curve in the middle of the G clef sign, how it curves around the second staff line from the bottom of the staff. This is the G line in the treble staff. Any note head placed on this line will be a G. The bass clef is also referred to as an F clef. The 2 dots of the bass clef occur around the 4th staff line from the bottom. This 4th staff line is the F line of the bass clef. Any note on this line will be an F. In piano music, you will see the grand staff. It is a combination of bass and treble clefs, which spans over 3 octaves. And this range can also be extended using ledger lines. If you have looked at any written music, you will probably have seen these signs called accidentals. They consist of sharp, flat, and natural signs. These occur to the left of a written note. The sharp sign raises the pitch of a note by 1/2 step. The flat sign lowers the pitch of a note by 1/2 step. And the natural sign is used to negate any previous sharps or flats in the same measure, including those from the key signature. These signs only last until the next bar line. They do not extend to notes in the next measure. Memorizing the lines and spaces of the treble and bass clefs is the key to quick identification of musical pitches. There's no substitute for memorizing these pitches. There have been a lot of mnemonic devices used to memorize these pitches, especially for beginning students. Sentences where the beginning letter of each word in the sentence spells out the names of the lines or spaces of the staff. For example, every good boy does fine, or every good boy deserves fudge. The first letters of these words spell out the letters E, G, B, D, and F, which you can see are the names of the pitches for each line in the treble staff. Notice that the names and spaces in the treble staff spell out the word F-A-C-E or face. This is another aid for remembering the names of the spaces in the treble clef. However, if you need to stop and use a mnemonic device every time you have to determine a pitch, you'll be greatly hindered in your ability to quickly identify the note names. The best way to quickly recognize note names is to practice and memorize these lines and spaces until they become second nature to you. Here are the lines and spaces of the bass clef. A mnemonic for remembering the names of the lines in the bass clef is the sentence, "Good boys do fine always." Also notice that the names of the spaces starting with A and going up are A, C, and E, spelling the word ace. These at least give you anchor points for quickly determining the names of the lines and spaces in the treble clef. Repeated practice will make the identification of these pitches instantaneous, and you won't need the mnemonic devices. In addition to being able to recognize pitches on the bass and treble staves, it is also helpful to be able to identify pitches on the piano keyboard. Notice that the black notes on the keyboard are arranged in groups of 2 and 3 keys. These groupings help us identify patterns of notes. If you look for a group of 2 black notes, the white note immediately to the left is a C. If you look for a group of 3 black notes, the white note immediately to the left is an F. You should also notice that the black notes indicated pitches that are sharped or flattened. And many of these have 2 names. For example, the first one on the left can be referred to as C sharp or D flat. Notes having 2 names are considered to be enharmonic notes. Stated another way, enharmonic notes are individual notes that sound the same but are spelled differently. If you look at the music on the screen, you will see that an A sharp and a B flat look different on the musical staff, but when played they sound the same pitch, and they appear the same on the piano keyboard. Here you will see the common enharmonic notes listed on the keyboard. At the top of the screen, notice all the black notes have 2 names. Find the group of 2 black notes on the left-hand side of the keyboard on your screen. The first black key has 2 names, C sharp and D flat. C sharp indicates a half step higher than C natural, and D flat indicates a half step lower than D natural. They both coincide with the same key on the keyboard and therefore sound the same pitch when played. Notice 2 other places where enharmonic notes regularly occur are between the notes E and F and between the notes C and B. An E is a half step below an F, so it can also be called an F flat. The F is a half step above an E, so it too can be called an F sharp. The B natural has an enharmonic equivalent called C flat, and C also can be called B sharp. It depends on the context. We'll see this as we move on to later chapters dealing with scales and chords. In addition to being able to recognize pitch names, I would also like you to start thinking about the relationship between pitches on the staff and pitches on the keyboard. First, let's talk about half steps. Half steps are notes that are adjacent to each other on the keyboard. For example, the red arrows on the right point to A and A sharp. Also note that the red arrows on the left point to E and F, both of which have no black note in between them. These are considered adjacent notes, and they are half steps apart. Now let's consider half steps on the musical staff. Diatonic half steps are half steps that change notes or note heads, such as A to A flat or C sharp to D. And these half steps usually occur by lowering the top note with a flat or raising the bottom note with a sharp. As mentioned earlier, the exceptions are E natural to F natural and B natural to C natural. Think of the keyboard. These are the notes with no black notes in between them, and they are naturally occurring half steps. Chromatic half steps keep the same note name but have a different pitch by the addition of an accidental, such as a sharp or a flat. For example, you see that A and A sharp are a chromatic half step. If you imagine the piano keyboard, A is a white key, and A sharp is the black key adjacent to the right of A. Similarly, D flat and D are also a half step apart. Whole steps refer to two notes on the staff or keyboard that skip a note in between. For example, notice the first pair of red arrows on the left between D and E. There is a black key in between. Also, the second set of red arrows on the right point to A flat and B flat. Here, there is a white key in between. By skipping one note, we basically have gone two half steps or a whole step apart. Be careful between the notes E and F, since there is no half step in between. A whole step exists between E and F sharp, as indicated by the first yellow arrows on the left. Here the white key of F lies in between them. You can see another similar example in the pair of yellow arrows on the right, the one pointing to B flat and the other to C. This is a whole step because the white key of B lies in between them. This completes the first unit of the course. The material should be familiar to you. If you are having a hard time learning the notes of a new clef, then please set aside some time to do the exercises in your textbook and also the self-tests online. There is no substitute for practicing to quickly learn to identify these notes. Please contact your instructors if you have any questions about the material in this chapter.